Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Simon and this is the start of a new reading vlog where I am going to be reading the Women's Prize longlisted books for 2023 that I haven't got round to yet. I have read 7, which means I have got 9 more to go, 7 of which will be in this vlog. 2 won't. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But what I thought I would do is start off by doing like a 1-line summation of the 7 that I have read so far. I'm not going to go into too much detail with them because there will be a video coming up in the not too distant future where my mum and I go through the long list and pick the books that we would shortlist if we were judges of the prize this year. So that will be coming very, very soon. In alphabetical order of author, I have got the 7 books right here. And like I said, I'm going to do you a 1-line pitch. First up, the 7 that I've read is Glory by NoViolet Bulawayo. And I would describe this as a sort of take on Animal Farm, but set in the present day in Zimbabwe. The animals sometimes... I just tried to film the first one and I ended up doing a paragraph, so I'm not doing that. I'm sticking to one sentence. This is a brilliant political novel about Zimbabwe with animals, but the animals talking sometimes put me off, especially when we had donkeys tapping on keyboards looking at YouTube. That was longer than the sentence. Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes, which I think is a funny retelling of them. Oh God, I'm not very good at this. This is a, I think, incredibly funny but very poignant retelling of the Medusa myth. I loved the snarky nature of it in some parts. I loved the way that Perseus was, I'm doing it again, I'm talking for too long. Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes, which I thought was a poignant yet very funny, sometimes snarky retelling of the Medusa myth with a very feminist twist or take. We have Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, which is a 90s American epic that still remains relevant today. That was better. The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell, another corking historical novel from Maggie O'Farrell. Yeah. Wow, I can't really do succinct, can you tell? I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. A funny, uncomfortable read that I think anyone who's on social media must read because it'll teach you some behaviour things, is all I'm going to say, and how, well, no. I am a fan if I'm a fan. Right, come on, Simon. An important novel about the perils of social media and what it's like to be a single woman of colour in Britain today. Oh, I should have said like funnily uncomfortable. I've said that now. Pod by Laline Paull, an eco-climate crisis tale that is sadly unrelentingly bleak. Last but not least, Memphis by Tara M. Stringfellow, a tale of the trauma of women in Memphis and the men behind that trauma. There we go. I don't know if I gave too much away there and if you can work out which my favourites were out of that lot. So, anyway, why am I praying? I'm going zen. And what I think I'll do at the very end of this is do a 1-sentence summation of all of the ones that I haven't so far. So, the books that I've got ahead to read, and we'll be reading in this vlog, and these are just in size order, are Jennifer Croft's Homesick, Children of Paradise by Camilla Grudova, Tresspasses by Louise Kennedy, sorry, that's the proof, Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks, Cursed Bread by Sophie Mackintosh, The Dog of the North by Elizabeth McKenzie, and Wandering Souls by Cecile Penn. The 2 that I'm not going to be talking about in this video, but will be talking about in a video on my mum's channel are Black Butterflies by Priscilla Morris and The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. So there we go. That's kind of me setting the stall for what this video is going to entail. I haven't quite decided which one I'm going to head to next. I think I'm going to read these 2 over Easter and then insert some like Easter footage here while I'm doing that elsewhere. In my 42nd year, even though I'm only 41, what I really want to do is try and capture something from every day, so that will mean that I'll do that on here too. The one that's calling to me the most at the moment is Wandering Souls by Cecile Penn. I don't know if that's because it's short or what, although actually Cursed Bread is also probably one of the ones that I'm most excited for, but I can't decide whether to leave the ones I'm most excited for till later and then maybe head to some of the ones that I'm not unsure about, because there's nothing on the list that I don't want to read, but just like have those rewards later on. So I am going to shortly film something with Chris for Patreon, and then I need to get prepped and ready for my event with Elizabeth Day tonight. So I'm probably not going to pick any of these, which gives me a little bit more time to mull it over, and I will report back tomorrow, which is my first day back in the office for 3 weeks. Blimey.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello. Friendship is such a massive topic, quite a daunting one. How did you decide this was what you wanted to write about, and what were the sort of initial perils that you thought might lie ahead?
Well, there's 2 answers to that excellent question. And the first one is, how did I decide to write about friendship? And the short answer is that I was contracted to write a non-fiction book. And my agent, Nell, took me for a walk, and it was one of those walks during lockdown where you were allowed to meet up with one other person for a daily dose of physical exercise. And we were absolutely freezing, walking through Vauxhall Park in southwest London, and we sat at a picnic table, and she looked me in the eye and she said, Elizabeth, what are you excited about? What do you want to write about? What's something that you know about? And I said, well, cats, number 1. Cheese, number 2. And she's like, no, that's not going to work. Although I think she's wrong, because I actually think a book about cats and cheese would be amazing. And then I was thinking about it, and the answer came to me with shuddering clarity. I was like, friendship. Friendship is something I'm so passionate about, and it is the most consistent and greatest love of my life.
Elizabeth Day,
With
number
these lovely flowers
1.
from Simon and Chris Savage.
Number 1.
Stop.
Number
I don't like
1.
to roast. Number 1!
Hey up everyone, it is now Wednesday late afternoon, well, early evening. I have not long finished work, my first day back in 3 weeks. Only 400 and something emails to get through. I've nearly managed to catch up. Also had a lovely team meeting where I hopefully spiced up everyone's life. Oh yeah. And on my lunch break, I went and got my hair done and had my face steamed and my beard reshaped, which is a new little treat that I'm allowing myself every 6 weeks. Wild. I had a really lovely evening with Elizabeth last night. It was so nice to catch up with her and see her and have a good old natter, as well as doing a lovely event and celebrating her going to number 1 with Friend Holly. That was fab. And then afterwards went for what is becoming my post-Liverpool event ritual. Very specific, and that is to go to Rudy's and have a pepperoni and chili honey pizza. It is honestly just incredible, and I think about it regularly. Even though I had it yesterday, I could eat it again now. Anyway, I have decided that the next book of the Women's Prize long list that I'm going to head to is Wandering Souls, which will be the first book in this video, obviously, because it's the ones that I haven't read so far yet, and this is the first of those. This one is appealing to me because, well, I think it's because it's about a Vietnamese family who flee Vietnam during the war, and they end up in Thatcher's Britain. And that is something I'm kind of intrigued by, because I remember Thatcher's Britain vaguely. I don't remember the Vietnamese War, so I'm hoping this enlightens that. And I think from what I do know of that period, there were similarities to what's going on right now in the UK with refugees coming over to then. And I want to look at that a little bit. I was about to compare this to Ocean Vuong's On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which is kind of lazy because that's really about a young American boy who is writing to his mum who came over from Vietnam. But that is sort of, I think, the only other book to do with the Vietnamese War that I've read. So I'm not going to compare and contrast them because they're two different things. I absolutely loved that book, by the way, so I'm hoping that I think this is amazing. But we shall see as I head to it and report back. But before I even start that, yes, I'm not quite starting it right now, I have got book club, my Patreon book club later on this evening, and we're going to be talking about Pod by Laline Paull, which I mentioned earlier and gave a brief one sentence-ish summation of. Really looking forward to this. My mum is joining us, which will be really, really nice, and it's always a really, really, really good time. So if you want to join the Patreon book club, my Patreon is always linked down below. If you don't, that's absolutely fine too. Not going to start anything before we discuss this, but once we have, I will head to this, and then I will catch up with you and let you know how I've got on with it. So I shall see you in a bit. Patreon book club for this. Done. Very mixed bag of feelings. What everyone couldn't see was the absolute chaos that was going on behind the camera. Still obsessed with that I got myself on my birthday. But yeah, this, there was some debated opinion. Morning, Millie. You alright? You're avoiding the camera at all costs. You know, I think you know. Do you know? Oh, you definitely know. She's purring, just for the record. Hey up everyone, it is Thursday morning and I have got 50 pages into Wandering Souls by Cecile Pin, and this book packs a wallop from the off. So we meet a Vietnamese family in the late 70s who have planned to leave the country, and they're not able to do it together because the family is, I've got this right, 6 of them, I think, possibly 7. And so they've split into 2, or they're splitting into 2 as the book starts. And Anne, with her younger brothers Min and Than, are going to leave first to try to get to Hong Kong with their parents and younger siblings following later on. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say that one part of the family don't make it, and so Anne, Than and Min are left, well, not only as orphans, but also in a refugee camp in Hong Kong. And it's incredibly moving. There's also a beautiful piece, I don't know if it's going to repeat throughout the novel, where we hear from Dow, who sadly dies on one of the boats. It's making me feel really emotional talking about it, but he sadly dies on one of the boats, and it's this sort of almost in poetry description of him leaving his body and then wanting to watch over his siblings, which is just so so now they're in a refugee camp in Hong Kong and are trying to get to America, and we'll see what happens from there. But just very, very, very moving. Like the prose is quite simple, but because of that it's really effective and kind of gets to you a little more, and then with that poetry as well, just very moved. So I need to get ready for work, so let's not talk about this anymore because I'll turn up to a meeting just floods of tears, because it was making me get emotional reading it, but actually talking about it is making it worse. So I will hopefully read to about halfway on my lunch break and have a catch up with you all then. Hi everyone, it is lunchtime on Thursday and the sun is shining, so I thought I'd come and catch up with you outside. Just thought I'd show you. I love this little Wendy house that was left when we bought it. Chris constantly wants to get rid of it and it makes me sad. So anyway, Oscar's just coming to join me in the sunshine. Hello. Anyway, Wandering Souls, Cecile Pin, over halfway through, and oh my god, Oscar's lying down on the... I've got to show you. You right there, Oscar? Chilling, living your best life. Yeah, best life. Oh god, he's being ridiculously cute. He knows I'm trying to do something else. Anyway, halfway through this, and also note I've got a really thick jumper on to sit outside in April. This I'm enjoying, if enjoying is the right word, because it's quite hard subject matter. The siblings have got to the UK, they didn't get to America, and it's Thatcher's Britain, and what Cecile is doing is kind of mixing the media a bit. So you hear the story of the siblings, then you get the little intermittent, almost poetic bits by the ghost of Dow, their brother, And then you'll also get like this one insight into something awful that American soldiers did in Vietnam that led to a huge tragedy, which just I could not get my head around. And then there's snippets from like newspapers, and some of them are from then, some of them are from almost now, revealing what Margaret Thatcher did or didn't want to do with Vietnamese refugees, which has just blown my brain a bit as well. However, occasionally that and the different format, there's also this voice that comes in this really odd font that is basically I think it's somebody further down generationally, or even possibly the author's voice themselves, and that is breaking it for me slightly. So yeah, in some ways it's just blown my mind. It's making me quite emotional and giving me a huge insight into something that I didn't know anything about, but then also sometimes the interlinking bits and the multimedia nature of it is making me come out of it a bit. So yeah, anyway, I'll tell you more when I finish it. I've got to go back to work now. I don't want to because it's so blinking sunny and I'd quite like to stay outside, but can't really get away with that one when I've got Zooms. Bloody Zoom. Instead, I've messaged Chris and we're going to go and have fish and chips by the sea later with an ice cream, as it looks like the weather's going to stay lovely until later on. And I will catch up with you when I finish this. Does it bother you that I'm showing you these without the dust jackets on, because that's how I read them? But just out of interest, do you need more covers shown, or does it not faze you? Are you actually just listening to this and not even watching my face at all? Hi everyone, and Good Friday to you, for it is Good Friday now. It's a really lovely sunny day, so I thought I would be out in the garden. That said, still got a sweatshirt on because a little bit chilly, even though very sunny. Plans today are to mainly hang out and chill in the garden, really, reading. And speaking of reading, I finished Wandering Souls by Cecile Pin, and I thought the ending was really powerful. It took us right up to pretty much, well, it took us to 2022, which I wasn't expecting, and I thought the way that Cecile Pin handled wrapping it up was really interesting. I will say the fact that there were different fonts and stuff, I don't know how much that helped me or hindered me, and I'm still thinking about that a little bit. But what it did do about looking at how these Vietnamese people have been treated who came over back in the late 70s, early 80s by society then looking at how they were being brought over in 2009 is horrendous. It made me cry seeing there, as well as how Asian people, including Vietnamese people, were treated with the pandemic. And I thought the way Cecile Pin sort of brought those all together, I thought was absolutely incredible and really poignant and powerful and really, really well done. That said, with the 2009 bit, it made me cry, but it also felt like journalism, and I think that's what quite a bit of this feels like. It's like faction-y fiction, like it's really, I can't quite describe it other than to say it feels a little bit journalistic. That's not a bad thing, it's just a thing. So yeah, that's how I felt about that. Now, over the Easter weekend, I'm going to be giving you snapshots of what I'm getting up to. Let's see if we can make that blue look a little bit bluer. That's better, thank you. I'm going to be heading to two books that I'm not going to talk to you about on here, apart from I will give you a sentence summary once I've read them, and that's because they're the two books that I'm reading for a video diaries kind of vlog that's going on Mum's channel, and they are Black Butterflies by Priscilla Morris and The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. Weekend plans, not many. Possibly a barbecue if it stays this sunny, that would be really nice. Although definitely going to go for dim sum on Easter Sunday, and it's probably just got really windy now and you might not have heard a single word that I said there, but that will all be revealed when I go to edit this. But yeah, I'll be back with my summation, sentence long summation of these before I tell you what I'm heading to next in this vlog, after a few clips of the Easter weekend. Gosh, it's like predicting the future. loves nature.
Which book did you vote to eliminate?
Son of a Trickster.
Shocker. Justin Trudeau did.
I know, I heard.
You know yourself.
I know.
Are you guys leaving, or are you just gonna sit there? Yo, I'll leave when I want to leave, bitch.
And we'll keep sitting here, you shriveled nut.
Yeah, fuck you. What the fuck you say? What the fuck you say?
Say it again! I dare you to say it again!
You alright there, Millie? Yeah? Comfy? Keeping it classy? Our gutters need doing.
Queerness, death, family, healing past traumas, miscommunications, a dash of Nigerian folklore, and this book felt like a cathartic cry. This book felt like screaming into a pillow over miscommunication with someone. This book feels like missing someone but not wanting to reach out. Yeah.
Don't you be peeking, it's a surprise film.
I'm hiding.
Hi everyone, it is now Easter Sunday evening. I've had a lovely Easter weekend. I think I last spoke to you on Friday, is that right? I can't remember. Anyway, it's been a weekend of watching a lot of Canada Reads, of finding a new booktuber that I love, Books the House Down. And one thing I'm going to do actually is try to include clips of some of my favourite booktubers more often in these vlogs that I do, just because I would like you to find them and go and watch them as well. And I've also read both of the books for the sort of video diaries / reading vlogs that are going to be on Mum's channel. I don't know whether she's going to do them as one video or two videos or what. It'll probably be live by now, so you'll know before I do. Well, I'll know by the time this goes live, but as of now, I don't know, so you have all the power. There we are. I'm going to do, I've not planned for this, so this could all go horribly wrong, a one-sentence summation of these. So, Black Butterflies, a moving portrait of the sudden ways in which war can take over from nowhere, and how the totally unnormal can become the new normal. That was probably a paragraph. Whoops. Bandit Queens, a thrilling, I don't want to say romp, it is along those lines. Right, come on Simon, you can do this. A feminist literary thriller that shines a light on an infamous woman in India and a wonderful group of women. No, that's dreadful. Oh God, I can't do this at all, can I? I'm just going to say an absolutely brilliant feminist literary thriller set in India that I blinking loved. Oh, I've given so much away there, but there we go. Anyway, before I tell you about what I'm going to head to next reading-wise, I thought I would share what I got in the Chinese supermarket today. I wanted to get the box that had instant jellyfish on. Instead, I've ended up with 4D, 3D plus delicious, but we'll work with what we've got now. You may be able to hear a slight funny ringing in here, and that's because, inspired by Canada Reads, I decided that I need a bell with a ding. So I got one. And if you've seen Canada Reads, you know what I mean. If you've not, I'll link the YouTube channel down below. So in here I have mainly sweet stuff, but also some savouries. I got some Pop Snacks spaghetti flavour. I mean, how could I not? I also got some smoked barbecue Texas chick boy, which is sort of chickpeas, crunch up your life. Well, why not indeed? Then I love pineapple, and I love pineapple shaped things, no, pineapple flavoured things. So I got myself some pineapple shortcakes, and as well as getting a new flavour of Hello Panda. These are biscuits with caramel flavour filling. I picked up some Koala's March vanilla milk, and then it gets a bit pocky-tastic. Did I get some Peppero as well? I did. So I've got Peppero Crunchy, I got Peppero Choco filled, I got Strawberry Pocky, I got Almond Peppero, I got Snowy Almond Peppero, and also Pocky Choco Vanilla. What more could you want in your life? Possibly to know what I'm going to head to next. And I'm going to head to one of the long-listed books, Women's Prize books that I'm most excited about, and that is Cursed Bread. It's also super short, so I feel like I can still keep the rhythm of getting through these books. I have got a book I need to read for work at some point in the coming week, actually, and I was tempted to do it now, but I thought, no, come on, keep getting through that long list. I've heard that this is based on a true historical incident where a whole village in France, I think, was poisoned en masse, and obviously from the title, through the bread. So my expectations have gone like wild. One, because I really like faction and historical fiction that's kind of set based on something, generally something kind of gothic or, I don't know, yeah, uneasy in history. And so this just, there's something about this particularly, as opposed to maybe things such as, for example, the war in former Yugoslavia and Syria, which I found that book incredibly moving, but that's not the sort of history I normally go to. It's normally the quirky, weird, slightly bizarre, like this, basically. So I'm excited for that. And yeah, I think it's just going to be a really dark gothic gem, and I'm hoping this will well, I didn't love the first of Sophie Mackintosh's books that I read, which was her first novel. I think the next one was Blue Ticket, and the first one was, oh, I hate when I can't remember, The Water Cure. Wasn't too much of a fan of that, so I'm hoping that I love this and then want to go back to Blue Ticket. That's what I'm hoping for. Anyway, I've talked for far too long. I'm going to go now. We watched Easter Parade today, which is the first, well, apt because it's Easter Sunday. Also got chocolate eggs, very exciting. But also it's the first film that I've seen with Judy Garland in that isn't The Wizard of Oz, which admittedly I have watched over 1,000 times, so, you know, there's that. I really enjoyed it. Also, some of the lyrics were dreadful. I'm just a fella with an umbrella. Come on now. Anyway, that's that. Gonna probably watch more of Beef, which I'm also really obsessed with. But this is not a channel about TV delights. It's about bookish delights. So I'll catch up with you when I've read about 40-50 pages of this. Hi everyone, it is Monday and it's one of those weird days where 1 minute it is sunny and lovely, like right now, and the next minute it's absolutely chucking it down. April showers, I guess. I thought I'd have a quick catch up with you about Cursed Bread before I go up to my in-laws for Easter dinner, which I'm hoping is going to involve a Simnel cake. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of baking, Cursed Bread. Oh, it's like I planned it. I didn't. I wish I was that clever. I'm about 50 pages in, and I have to say, so far, and I feel awful saying this, but I'm a little bit disappointed and bemused, and that's possibly because of the hype and excitement I'd put on it before I'd even read it. But this, I thought, was going to be this sort of tale of kind of gothic proportions of, or gothic proportions. Can a book have gothic proportions in that sense? Yes, anything can, actually, I think. I thought that this would be much more gothic than it is, and currently it's just about a woman called Elodie who is married to the baker in this small town, and an ambassador and his wife Violet have moved there, and she's kind of become a bit obsessed with them. I mean, she's even thought about having sex with the ambassador. She's thought about her husband having sex with Violet, and there's a lot of sexual, well, is it sexual tension? I don't know if it is. It's just this bubbling desire going on. But there's no signs of anything like to do with the possible poisoning. And you could say, oh, Simon, you're only 50 pages in. And you'd be right to say that to a degree if you just said that. However, 50 pages in is over a quarter of the book. And at the moment, I just feel like I'm getting this kind of repetitive, obsessional voice of Elodie, like thinking about her husband with one of them or thinking about them with her, or yeah, it's just not quite getting me. And also the writing, I said bemused earlier because I'm not 100% always clear on what's going on, as it's just these sort of very fast random thoughts. So we'll see. Like I said, I've got, you know, over a quarter of the way through now, so we'll see how I'm feeling halfway. But I do sort of blame myself, because in my head it was going to be this really gothic tale of someone who wanted to poison a whole village. And maybe that will come, but at the moment there's just no signs of it. And 50 pages in, I feel like there should be, I'm going to say it, a couple of breadcrumbs leading me in that direction. I'm not going to apologise for that. I think that was quite a good intended pun. But there we go. Anyway, I'm going to go off now shortly to my in-laws, and I'll catch up with you whenever I am halfway, be it later on tonight or be it in the morrow.
You okay?
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Good girl. Good girl.
I didn't know it was.
There's a lot of talk of boobies in this book. There's just boobies after boobies.
Hey everyone, it is Tuesday evening and I have finished Cursed Bread by Sophie Mackintosh, and sadly for me, overall this book didn't really work, and I think that's partly to do with the fact that the blurb kind of did give the premise but didn't give the promise. See what I did there, of what was to come, which is a shame. And what this book is about is kind of about obsession, about being an outsider and wanting to belong in some kind of way, which Elodie very much is. It's about sexual awakening in a lot of ways. It's about how when you are miserable in certain situations you can project. It's about well, a group of people that get poisoned, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it just, because everything else was so, I really felt like this should have been a short story, because the bits between Elodie and Violet actually was so obsessively repetitive that for me it did sadly become a little bit boring. There were a few moments where I was like, oh, I think I'm going to really get into it. One was to do with some dead horses and one was to do with the bonfire, but it felt to me, and this is going to sound really odd, like a muted Midsummer, which is probably not the best analogy or comparison to give it. Definitely comparison, not analogy, because I didn't really like that film, and I blinking love Florence Pugh and pretty much everything she does, but I found that film too extreme and weird, and I didn't quite get it. Whereas this kind of had those elements and a few gothic shocks that I, you know, kind of got me, ooh, am I going to get into it? But yeah, it just didn't sadly work for me. And that's fine. Like, sometimes there are just some authors that, like, I think I'm more frustrated than anything because I know she can write and I know that I should like this book, but for some reason it just hasn't gelled with me, and that's much more me than the book. And that happens sometimes, but, you know, part of me is like, oh, just move on. You know, you don't always like every author, and that's fine. But I don't know why I'm so annoyed that I don't like this as much as I want to. But yeah, there we go. So that is that. Now, I'm going to be having a little break from Women's Prize reading because next week I am hosting an event with Jenny Jackson, author of Pineapple Street, in Liverpool, so I need to get reading the book before I do that event. However, there will still be content, because I won't talk about this in this vlog. There will still be content though, because tomorrow I'm off to Birmingham for work to go and have a meeting, my one-to-one with my manager, and then Mum is picking me up. I'm hopefully going to try and sneak into the library, well, not sneak in like I'm breaking it, but like slip into the library between my meeting with my boss and seeing my mum, and then Mum and I are off in the car. She's driving me to Manchester, and we're going to go and see Kate Moss's one-woman show, Warrior Queens and Quiet Revolutions, which I'm just so excited about. I love Kate, and has a Women's Prize link because she is the co-founder of the Women's Prize. And then Mum's staying over, and we're going to go to West Kirby Bookshop and get brunch in West Kirby on Thursday. So I'll probably, oh, and I'm seeing Pip for dinner on Thursday night. It's just go, go, go. So I'll probably have a catch up with you on Friday once I've read this and decided what I'm going to pick up next from the Women's Prize long list that I haven't got to yet. Oh, should I give this a one-line sentence or should I wait to do that at the end? Maybe I'll wait to do that at the end. Yeah, I'll wait to do that at the end. I'm gonna go and have a bath now. I'm off to Birmingham.
Finish with a final thought. It doesn't matter what you look like, what you do, what you did, where you come from, who you love. What matters is that you are yourself and that you make it possible for other people to be themselves. And more than anything, use your voice. Thank you.
Spend the bank holiday there.
Very excited, aren't you, Louise? She's excited, she can't wait. She's excited, can't wait. How do you test a headset for a flight, Pip? There we go. Is that going to be good enough for New York?
I can't decide between this and the memory foam one. This one's bigger. Oh.
We'll work that out in a minute. I'm just gonna have my cup of tea. Hopefully with a lot of reading. Let's see how we go. Famous last words. Oh, I just spilled my tea. Oh no. I just spilled it out. It's on my pants. Oh. I just spilled my tea.
Hey up everyone, it is Friday afternoon. I've had a bit of a bullshit day, although that clip of Natalie and her video, honestly, that made me howl with laughter. So thank you, Natalie. I know I was laughing sort of at you at the time, but hopefully you'll appreciate that I was really laughing with you because I'm sure you'll be laughing about it in hindsight. Anyway, yeah, also just to say Kate Moss's one woman show was absolutely incredible, like just phenomenal. How she did that, like 2 hours of not only talking about like her great grandmother's well, trying to find out more about her great grandmother, because the premise of her book is, and that's what the woman show is about, is in part about lots of women who've been forgotten throughout history and putting them into history, and also trying to find out about her great grandmother who was an author who, like, all of her works are out of print. There's not very much known about her. It was just incredible, and the energy and the way that she had like everyone in the theatre just on the edge of their seats wanting to find out more and more. It was just brilliant and eye-opening about quite a few characters from history that I did know about. I did not know that Florence Nightingale was a huge racist, and that was quite a shock. I'm sure lots of you maybe know that already, but I had no idea. Anyway, so there's that. That was brilliant, and had a lovely time with Mum, and she absolutely loved West Kirby Bookshop. Had a fab time with Pip, the last time I'll see her before she goes off to get married in New York. And yeah, speaking of New York, the reason that I'm in a mild grump today, and it's no one's fault, is that the event that I'm meant to be doing with Pineapple Street, no, the event that I'm meant to be doing with Jenny Jackson has been cancelled. So I read the book for, not for naught, but also I've got the blinking imported edition on its way because I wanted her to sign it because I love that edition way more than the cover on this one. I guess because I could have been reading other women's prize books, and as I've realised, I have got 5 to go, and me and Mum are meeting in just over a week. This could be interesting. One thing I will say though, and it's the first time this has ever happened in the history of me doing events, is that the folk at Penguin did offer to pay me in full because it was short notice, and that's never happened from a publisher before when events got cancelled. Now, I said no to being paid in full. I said pay me half because I've read the book and stuff, but I haven't actually hosted the event. But I wasn't going to say no, don't pay me at all, because that would have made things not great for other potential freelancers if they're in the same position. So we have to remember that we do things not just for us, but for other people. So anyway, blah, I'll tell you about that in a wrap up in due course. Now, I haven't decided which of these, in fact, no, maybe I think I have decided which of these I think I'm going to go for. The one I'm most excited about is Fire, so I think I'm going to leave that till last, although everyone's been recommending it on audio, so I could listen to it on audio alongside some of the others. I have 2 copies of both Homesick and The Children of Paradise. So I think they're going to be ones that I take with me next weekend to finish like on the train and stuff. Because next weekend, Mum and I are going to North Yorkshire to do a bookshop road trip, which I'm really, really excited for, and film our predictions from Longlist to Shortlist, hence why I've got a tight deadline on these. So that kind of leaves me with either Tresspasses or The Dog of the North, and I think the one I'm going to go for is The Dog of the North. And this is going to sound awful, I think this is going to be an easier read than Tresspasses in theme. Maybe this looks like it's going to be quite a lot of fun. The cover's quite bright and bold, some might say a little bit I don't know what twee, that's the word I was going to look for. So yeah, I think I'm going to head for this one. I don't know how much reading I'm going to get done today because it is Chris and I's 11th anniversary, 11 years since we met each other, and so we're gonna have a fancy pants tea at home because he's a chef. And although fancy pants tea, that's what I wanted, and I've gone for what I like to call my death row dinner, which is prawn cocktails with avocado, lasagna, and lemon meringue pie. They're like my 3 favourite things on earth. I should have been born in the 70s, or should have been alive in the 70s to enjoy that, because that's such a 70s meal. But my sort of read thoughts for this are that, yeah, it's going to be twee, probably quirky, quite bonkers, because the Portable Veblen was, from what I remember, although I didn't love that book. It had that bloody squirrel in it. I like squirrels in general, I should just say. I think this is going to be a bit rompy, maybe. That's what I'm kind of hoping. I will report back when I have read some. Morning. Say morning, Moo. Very happy, very cuddly. Aren't you? Excuse the very weird angle. It's now Saturday. And I wanted to show you, because I haven't on the channel, I don't think, I might have on Patreon, show you this amazing ladder for the library, well, set of steps. A little library ladder, whatever, that my stepdad made me and my mum brought with her this week, and it's just ace. I did put a picture of it on Instagram actually, because I put stuff on it, which people got very upset about, but I need something that's dual purpose. I need something that I can pop a few things on, maybe a cup of tea, a book, because it's next to my armchair, and that then, like, I don't use the stairs every day. So, yeah, anyway, Mum's also got some, and I think my stepdad should start a business, don't you? I think he should. Anyway, let's try and straighten you a little bit. Oh, there we go. This is an angle I'm not used to. I have read the first 50 pages of The Dog in the North by Elizabeth McKenzie, and I will say at first I was not sure at all. This is about a woman called Penny who, after divorcing her husband, she's a little bit lost in the world, and as a divorcee I can understand that feeling, although I also found it weirdly empowering because suddenly I could do whatever I wanted, which was quite weird. No disrespect to my ex-husband, I dare say if you see this, I don't mean that rudely. It's about how she decides to go and sort out a situation that's going on with her grandmother, And in doing so, she meets like this old family friend who takes her in, and she ends up sleeping in his office, and he has really bad stomach problems, and then comedy ensues. And I wasn't really sure at that point. I was like, there's a bit too much toilet jokes, which I'm a fan of a toilet joke on occasion, but like anything where it's too much, I just lose interest. However, then we met her grandmother, who just, as soon as she comes onto the scene, just like the book sort of radiates her. And as basically they're trying to get her out of the house because no one's cleaned it for years, and she's worried that people are going to steal the house from her, and you know, she's just this curmudgeonly old woman. And they do manage to get her out of the house, and they initially find lots of rat babies, which is gross, but then also they find something far darker. And it was just at the point where I was thinking, I think I might DNF this, that happened. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to read so much more. So that's what I'm going to do today. I have to say I'm at the beginning of a Durkheim's flare. So I think I'm just going to crack on with this and catch up halfway through if I can. If not, I just won't. I've got a really nice day planned tomorrow, so I really don't want my Durkheim's to affect it. And sort of with this chronic illness that I have, and for those of you who don't know, Durkheim's is a chronic illness that affects or creates these lumps in your body around your lymph nodes, but also on some of your nerve endings. And when they swell and you have a flare, it's like a body migraine, which is what I'm at the beginning of. I've taken my meds, so hopefully it won't be too bad, but sometimes you just have to give in to it and write like 5 or 6 hours off. I have to say, I'm having them less. It's really weird. Whilst I've still got this sinus-y long COVID-y thing, my Durkheim's has actually backed off quite kindly of it until today. So anyway, blah, it's not something that I like to talk about loads, but it's something just, if you're new here, hi, there's a fascinating or possibly not so fascinating fact. So I'm gonna have a very chill day because I've got a really lovely day tomorrow. And so we'll just carry on reading this. And if I can catch up with you, I will. And if not, I'll catch up with you tomorrow, be it about the book or a fun day out that I have planned, because me and Chris haven't managed to have a full day out for ages. So yeah, that's where I am. I've just suddenly gone really tired, so I am going to catch up with you anon. Do your jingle. Simon and Chris's day of fun. You don't normally do it like that. That was quite extreme. So on our day of fun, on a favourite kind of day, we are off to Homesick, which is a stately home that's been on my channel a few times, I think, because I love it very much. Had my 40th not so surprise birthday there last year. So that is the next stop for Simon and Chris's day of fun. Hey up everyone, so back from a lovely day at Erdig, and then had a bit of time to kill between going around the house and the gardens at Erdig and going to my favourite restaurant, well, my favourite pub, and it's a chain of pubs that just do the most incredible food, and everywhere's a little bit different, which is really, really nice. Anyway, between then we went to the Polish supermarket, and I thought I would share with you what I got there, like I did last Sunday. Oh my goodness, it's becoming a thing when I got lots of treats from the international supermarket and my favourite dim sum restaurant. So some of these are actually more like, in my head, American, because I've got quite a lot of Cheetos, which I'm obsessed with, though they don't do the knobbly cheesy ones, as I like to call them. But this is a knobbly paprika flavoured, although they just say paprika flavoured. I also got the ketchup flavoured sticks because you can never have too many of those, and also the green onion flavoured hoops. So basically onion rings, but yes. Interesting about green onion. Oh, why? I'm just trying to find. Oh, I suppose I do know about onions, and actually I would think of onions as being yellow, but maybe these are more like, oh, these like spring onion. There we go. Anyway, there's that. Wow, I had a whole little thing there in my own head. And also, actually, from Erdig, forgot to mention that I got some reduced Easter eggs that come in a proper egg box. Only the National Trust would do that. And then the most almighty, actually, did I get 2 chocolate bars? No, oh, and I got some, blimey, I couldn't stop. Some reduced price hot cross bun fudge. So, yeah, we got those. And then I got this, which is a tiramisu chocolate bar. And I couldn't resist the Milka Max. This is the biggest chocolate bar I think I've ever seen. It's strawberry cheesecake. And yeah, that's the whole thing. And then I got 2 juices, and I really love Timbark. So this is, I think it's apple and pear, that one. And then this one, which is the one that I tried first last year. Where was I? Slough, actually, I think it was where I first discovered this. Apple mint, which is just gorgeous. So very excited to have all of those. Thought I'd share those with you because I've got nothing bookish to say today. I mean, imagine. Hi everyone, it is Monday, a gorgeous sunny Monday actually, and I'm feeling much better than when I last chatted to you about books on Saturday. I did have a bit of a Durkin's flare, but was fine by Sunday, and you'll have seen, went and had a lovely time. Now I actually finished The Dog of the North on Saturday evening. It was very naughty not to say about it. I didn't want to be on camera. I was a bit of a state, and then yesterday was out and about just having a lovely time. My end feelings were similar to the beginning in the fact that this is quirky, it is bonkers, it's got some fantastic characters, but it didn't quite deliver what I was hoping for, even when there was that twist that I mentioned where, well, not even a twist, but like a revelation of what was going on that then led to bigger revelations with Penny's grandmother, who I absolutely loved. And actually, there was something in that character that really reminded me of Demon Copperhead's grandmother when we got to meet her. So yeah, I need to read a lot more books with some fantastic, quirky, odd, why do I keep saying quirky? It's not my favourite word. Eccentric old women in. So if you've got any of those, please leave me those recommendations down below. So there's not masses more to say. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I did... It is a funny book, but I have an issue with funny books. The fact that I don't always find them that funny, and sometimes the funniness, I don't know why I keep doing that, just kind of gets a bit much, and this almost strayed into those moments where I was like, oh, do you know what? I don't need another gag. And what I think really kind of surprised me was that I know that books may be written and the author doesn't know where they're going, but this felt like the author either wasn't quite sure what was going on, was just going to let whatever happened, it didn't matter how random, ridiculous, or whatever. So that kind of lessened some of the impacts that the book has as you read on. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was all right. I'm glad I've read it, but it's not like going to be one of my favourites. No spoilers, or probably no surprises there, frankly. So, in terms of the final 4 that I'm heading to, I've decided I'm definitely going to save these 2 until I go away at the weekend, because I have spare copies of them, so I can take those with me and batter them about, and also possibly leave them at the Airbnb, because I think one of the things that Mum sent me, they said they had reading material there, so I was like, oh, that might be like a little library, that's exciting. So what I'm going to do is, as mentioned, I'm going to listen to Jacqueline Crooks' Fire Rush on audio at the recommendation of many of you, because apparently there is some of the music featured in the story in the audio, so I think that'll just add a real layer. That said, if I struggle, because I do struggle with audiobooks if they're fiction, for some reason non-fiction I can absolutely get on with. It kind of feels like the radio's on and it does go in. Whereas fiction, I sort of lose my way. Anything longer than an episode of The Archers tends to kind of just, I'm like, oh, what was I listening to? Oh goodness, I need to go back and listen to, I don't know, 5 chapters potentially. Anyway, no, I don't think it's open 5 chapters. I also sometimes, sorry, itchy eye, fall asleep while I'm listening to them, and I'm horrible after a nap, so that's not a good idea for anyone. And then I'm going to read in physical form Louise Kennedy's Tresspasses. And actually, sorry, one thing that I forgot to say about this is I've got a lot of train journeys. I have got a few train journeys actually, because I've got trains to Yorkshire on Friday, and also on Wednesday, madness, I am going to and from London for literally a 4-hour meeting. So I'm going 2.5 hours down, 4 hours there, 2.5 hours back. And I do find I am better with audio, anything on a train, because if I've got a book and a window, I'm always like gagging out the window because I just can't help it. No matter how many times I go up and down that journey, the Liverpool to London one, it is a lot generally. I still can't help but stare out the window. Anyway, that's my plans. Now, what do I predict about these 2 books? So, I predict that Fire Rush is going to... It's really hard, actually, with some of them. So, actually, let's go to this one. Because with Tresspasses, I know that this is set during the Troubles. And that... I'm intrigued because after going to Northern Ireland last year and to Belfast, I heard, like, one of the best descriptions of how to explain the Troubles ever, which sort of made everything clearer than on everything that I'd read before when we were randomly on a bus tour of the Giant's Causeway and the coast, and the coach driver told us, and it really, really made sense. So this makes me feel like I'm going to go into it with a tiny bit more knowledge, whereas I think before when I read about the Troubles, I've been a bit like, I don't really understand what's going on, because it's a complex thing. But yeah, so I'm intrigued for this one. Sometimes I love Irish fiction and sometimes it leaves me utterly cold, so it could go either way, but I'm hoping I love it because I've heard lots and lots of people raving about it. And then Fire Rush, again, it could go either way because there's so much music in it. I'm not very good with books that centre around art or music or film. So actually, this one could also be an interesting one because if I've not seen the art, heard the music or seen the film, I feel like I'm a bit like alienated from it or a bit on the outside. And yes, you can go and Google and you can go and listen and stuff. And I think with the audio, with there being the music in it, that will help. But yeah, it could go either way. I've just got a feeling about this one though, and it's an unexplainable feeling. I don't know if you ever get that about a book where you're just like, I just think I'm going to absolutely love it, with that mild trepidation around the music element. So I'll report back on these when I have listened to and read some of them. Although, just to clarify, I do think listening to a book counts as reading. It's just I will be listening to one and literally reading the other before I get any comments on that. I also would like some comments on, is me catching up with you on books 50 pages in, that, well, I still need to find a better term for my pre-reading thoughts. I feel like Cindy commented something that was really good. I need to be reminded. Cindy, if you see this, please remind me. And preconceived ideas, maybe? Yeah, maybe that's something. But yeah, my preconceived ideas or my preconceptions of it. Oh gosh, I've got all the words. And then talking about 50 pages in and then halfway through and at the end. Would it just be better to do it at the beginning, the middle, the end? Or is it quite nice to get a flavour of sort of how I'm feeling about it, which I didn't do on this because I'm dreadful. Well, I'm not dreadful, I felt dreadful, but I am a little bit dreadful. Anyway, there we go, I'm waffling on. I will speak to you all when I've got something to say on books. Hi everyone, this is Editing Simon in the future, and one thing I wanted to say was, I forgot to mention how amazing the end papers were in Dog of the North and how I would wear that as an outfit. So there's just that, just to give the book a little bit more of a shout out. And also, I'm now not going to include any of the video footage I made about Fire Rush or Tresspasses, and the reason for that is I'm going to do a separate vlog because I'm also aware this is really quite a long one where I read talk about and read the shortlisted Women's Prize books, because I filmed some content around Demon Copperhead that hasn't been on my channel, that will be, but I'll take some of that from the sort of parallel reading, as my mum calls it, video where me and her read it and our thoughts go next to each other, if that makes sense. Parallel reading, that would make sense. I like video diaries. That's going to go live in the next couple of weeks, but I'll take some of that from there. I'm also going to reread Pod, because I've had conversations with, well, Lena's made me really rethink about it actually, and so did Natalie. So I'm going to reread Pod. I'm also going to reread The Marriage Portrait, because I read that last May, filming for Sky Arts Book Club's Christmas special, and I read that quite quickly and I'd like to read that again. So that's 3 of them. And then I can include Fire Rush, I can include Tresspasses, and what's the other book on the shortlist? Oh my lord. Oh, and some snippets of my thoughts on Black Butterflies, is that right? Yes, by Priscilla Morris, which I filmed for a video on my mum's channel, which you'll have seen some of, but again, I can merge that all into video because I want to keep celebrating the shortlist and the Women's Prize between shortlist and winner, which I don't usually, so that will all be in a separate vlog. So what we're going to do now is fast forward in time to Friday, and yeah, starting on with another book. Morning everyone, it's Friday. You find me with really bad bedhead. Anyway, I thought I'd let you know that I am going to start, what fluff on me, Children of Paradise by Camilla Grudova soon. Sorry, what's got hairs? Oof. Oh, I'm heading to Yorkshire today, which I'm really looking forward to, as Mum and I are going to be doing a bookshop tour across the North Yorks. And yeah, it's going to be really good fun. And I'm hoping I can devour this, well, at least like half of it. Maybe not, we'll see. Me and trains, it's not always good, although I have got Fire Rush to listen to. I'm getting there early to check into the Airbnb, and then Mum's arriving later. So I feel like this is like a 1-day read potentially. And I'm also packing Jennifer Croft's Homesick. And then Mum and I are planning on recording our thoughts on the Longlist to Shortlist on Sunday, amidst all of the fun and book frolics that there can be. We're also going to some bookish places as well, which is going to be really nice. I may make a separate vlog of that, we'll see. Anyway, that's that. What are my preconceived ideas or preconceptions about this book? It's set in a cinema, which sounds, and also I know that Camilla Grudova has written a quirky, oh, that bloody word again, a collection of short stories called The Doll's Alphabet that people have compared to Angela Carter, so that intrigues me. The fact that it's set in the cinema interests me. I think it could have a really cinematic vibe to it. I don't know what sort of style though, because there's lots of different styles, and that does worry me a tiny bit because I'm not that au fait with films. I like a good film, but I'm not like, I feel like Nathan of Nathan's Nook will really enjoy this because he is a bit of a film buff. So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous at the film element. I'm worried I might miss things basically, because when me and Mum did the reaction to the long list, we had flicked through and saw that there were titles of movies in it, and that's kind of, yeah, intrigues me but also makes me feel a bit nervous. So there we go, that's my thoughts. Anyway, I need to pack, get ready. I don't know if I need to pack any other books because I feel like we're going to be buying them. But yeah, I shall report back anon. Hi everyone, it is later on and I am now in Todmorden, where Mum and I are staying for the weekend. We're filming a special book road trip video for Independent Bookshop Week, which you'll be able to see in mid-June, I think. What you can see now though is that that was a dreadful segue. What you can see is that I am about 50 pages into Children of Paradise. Actually, that's not true. I am 57 pages in to Children of Paradise by Camilla Grudova, and I'm really enjoying this, and I wasn't sure that I was going to. I don't think I have read a book set in cinema and around film before, but this I'm very much enjoying. It's in a cinema called Paradise, and we meet a woman who calls herself Holly, who has started working there. She's come over from Russia, and she knows no one in the city, and the staff there aren't particularly pleasant to her, and she kind of becomes obsessed with film through working in the cinema. And there's a real, it feels like it almost feels like you're watching a film, an old sort of slightly black and white with sort of flashes of colour here or there, splashes, whatever I was going to say, of colour here or there, in a really old crumbly cinema through a book. I think it's kind of incredible. Sorry, I've got a really itchy nose. And some of the characters that come and watch films there's a woman who is very like Baby Jane in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which is one of the chapters titles. All the chapters are titled after a different film, and I always be keeping a list actually because I'd like to watch the ones that I haven't. I have seen Baby Jane, so I got the reference to the character who comes in who's very like her. And there's a man who comes in and sort of is quite intense towards Holly and then sort of vanishes, and it sounds like something quite awful's happened, but she's like, yeah, okay. And it's about being an outsider from a group of outsiders, and how once you get onto the inside, which she's slowly but surely doing, her life is changing. It's also full of some quite disgusting descriptions of bodily functions so far from the customers, but I shall say no more than that. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying this. I think this might be one of my favourite long lists in some time, and Mum and I are going to be filming our long list. We're going to be filming our long list to shortlist video while we're here. And this will go live after I've decided. And what I might do actually is I'm going to the shortlist party on Wednesday, so I will add that at the end. Anyway, I've talked randomly for far too long now, but yeah, a long list that I really love. This I think is great. I'm really looking forward to now settling down with more of it, and I've only got one more to go. I'm interested to see which ones Mum has loved and I've loved, and I'm hoping what we might do is we might not talk about them in too much detail then, but maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to predict the future. I've got to stop doing this and just going with the flow and enjoying it all. But I guess it's the part of my brain that makes me I'm going to call myself a good project manager, aren't I? But I'm told I'm quite good at it. Yeah, anyway, I'm waffling on. I'm going to read while I wait for Mum and report back. I don't think I'm going to report back halfway, because that's only literally going to be in about 30 pages. So I might report back at the end, because that's literally only 130 pages. So I'll chat to you then. Very long walk to the curry house. Very long.
Don't think we'll like it.
Not going to make it. There's stuff on. I always feel bad when you're filming and stuff, but I'll put some music over it. Jaunty music. Hi everyone, it's later and I am in bed. Mum arrived, much excitement, went for a very tasty but random curry in what seemed to be an old car showroom that had been converted, but the food was fantastic. Anyway, I have finished Camilla Grudova's Children of Paradise, and overall I enjoyed this. It is very dark, and gets darker and darker as it goes on, and more sort of into kind of horror, I guess-ish. I want to say camp horror, but it is really unsettling and also quite hard to read, so maybe that isn't the right analogy. But the whole book feels like a film set in a cinema, and that's because it's a book set in a cinema with some really, really quirky, odd characters. It does get weirder as it goes on as well. Which I enjoyed, but sometimes it's like, hang on a minute, is any of this real? Is it a dream sequence? Why are doors suddenly appearing? And the cinema itself is so brilliantly depicted, and the bonkers characters that come in it, but it is almost like not a haunted house, but like a ghost train, yet a place. I can't really describe it. I suppose it is like a big old haunted building without there actually being any ghosts. There's quite a few dead bodies by the end. Very unlike anything that I've read before, and I am really keen to go to her short story collection, which I have at home, The Doll's Alphabet. So there we go, that one. An interesting, quirky, slightly bemusing read. And then, I am now going to start Homesick by Jennifer Croft. My preconceived ideas of this are that it's going to be a very hard tale of siblings, one of whom gets very ill, and I think it's going to make me quite emotional. It's in vignettes, which means I think one will give it a real pace, but also make it very condensed and probably quite powerful. I'm also fascinated by the story of this book, and although slightly concerned whether that might mean it's a bit jarring and or a bit higgledy-piggledy, because it started off being published in Spanish, I think. Then it was translated into English and released as a memoir in America, and then has been rewritten as a novel here. Of course, it could go the other way, and those different versions of it could mean that it's edited into something phenomenal, which I'm hoping it is. But yeah, we shall see, and I shall report back when I'm about 50 or so pages in. I was going to say halfway and then skip doing like 2 catches in the middle, because it is short and it is vignette-y, but who knows. I want to kind of give you my first impression sort of flavours, I wanted to say. Blimey, I'm very tired. Done a lot of chatting with Mum, not about books though, because we can't talk about any of the books until we do our shortlist predictions. Anyway, my arm is going to go dead. I'll catch up with you in the morning, and yeah. Morning everyone, I am back to let you know how I'm getting on with Homesick by Jennifer Croft. I am 60 pages or 63 pages in. It's about Zoe and Amy, who are sisters who are incredibly close and do pretty much everything together. I mean, obviously they have their tensions, as siblings do. However, Zoe gets this mysterious illness and everything seems to change. It's told through these very condensed / concentrated vignettes. Some are a bit longer, some are half page, some might be like 2.5 pages or whatever. But the impact of that I find really, really powerful. I know some people might find it actually a bit disorientating, which it also is, but I think that's also kind of part of the idea behind it, because of these sort of vignettes of memories that you're meant to be getting, sometimes slightly out of order, but generally kind of in a chronological order. But the one thing that's bugging me a tiny bit is it's really hard, I think, to pull off a child narrator, especially when they're dealing with really sort of, I'm not saying that kids can't deal with grief or with illness, or because they do, but when you're an adult you have a very different perspective on it and you have a different head on your shoulders as a general rule. And I feel sometimes the voice is either a little too babyish, a little cloying, or a little bit too knowing, and it doesn't tend to sit quite on the right balance of her age, I guess, which may just be me rather than, I mean, yeah, I'd be interested to hear other people's thoughts on it, but so far I'm intrigued by it. The way that you get glimpses of what's going on with her parents is really well done, because as a reader, you are an adult reading this and knowing what may be coming, but as a child you have that naivety or that hope, maybe a little bit more, and that is brilliantly done. But yeah, there's just something a little bit about the narration that I'm not too sure about. I think I'm going to whiz through this. So I say that though, me and Mum have got quite the itinerary here in North Yorkshire, as we're doing a bookshop road trip. I think I mentioned that. So it might be that I'm just grabbing bits of this here and there, but I need to read it before we record our shortlist predictions. I want to get it done. So yeah, anyway, that's where we're at. That's what I think of it so far. I think it doesn't feel disjointed like I thought it might, and I do like the condensed nature of it. But yeah, we'll see how we go. I've only got to the bit where the grandparents are kind of coming and treating them to special shoes because obviously awful things are happening. So again, things like that are very moving within it, I meant to mention. So that's my thoughts at this stage. I will catch up with you when I'm done, and I think it'll be time to round everything off. Anyway, yes, waffling, and need to get ready because Mum is downstairs waiting. But I'll speak to you later when I finish this. We're in our Lister's bedroom. I've been reading about what happened in there. Oh, she's in. Oh, we're off.
Are we ready?
Yeah, it's the moment of truth.
Hello.
Hi everyone, it's now Tuesday the 25th of April and I'm back at home early. I actually came back yesterday, but it was such a blinking weird, not great day that I didn't film anything apart from, which I'll insert here because I did say I wanted to get something from every single day. I did get to have a Betty's in Harrogate, so there's that. It was delicious. But basically at 4 in the morning on Monday, my mum got a call from my auntie to say that her husband was really, really ill and been rushed to hospital, and mum had to go and look after her children. So mum had to dash off. It's not looking very good with my uncle at all. But I don't want to talk about it here because it's not for me to talk about, but just to let you know that's what happened. I then tried to phone the hotel in Harrogate because that's where we were going to be going at the end of Monday, to stay in the hotel where Agatha Christie reappeared after she went missing. And they were like, no, sorry, you can't cancel. It doesn't matter what's going on. Quite rude. So I was like, what do I do? And I was sort of stranded. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go because I paid for the 2 rooms. And when I get there, maybe, you know, they'll sort something out or something will happen. And so headed over there and got there, and the receptionist was so nice, but her manager was awful and was just like, no, not refunding any rooms, don't care what's going on, basically. You know, I'm sure they get people winding them up, or not winding them up, I'm sure they get people fibbing about why they can't stay or whatever, but I'd literally turned up and then, hilarious, they wouldn't give me a key to the other room, even though I paid for 2. Went to my room, the bed was stained, which was gross. Admittedly, it was a nice 4-poster, but the view was also awful. It was just of like a high roof. And I paid like for like nice rooms for me and mum because I wanted it to be a treat. So I went to try the other room, which had a lovely lounge and then separate bit, but just absolutely stank. And I literally went downstairs and lost it. Was just like, I'm going to go home. I can't stay here. This is ridiculous. Not in a diva way, just in like, I just needed to go home, I think. Anyway, there wasn't a train for a while, so I went and had my Betty's and then came back. So that is what has been going on. Mum and I are putting the bookshop tour on hold because we don't know what's going to be happening and how things are going to be. But as soon as we do, we can maybe plan something else. So yeah, but I did finish Homesick by Jennifer Croft. Probably not in the best of moods. I don't know if that affected the book. One thing I did want to mention actually is that I was talking about the narrative voice. It's told in the 3rd person. I think that's right. Basically, it's somebody telling you what happens to Amy and Zoe, and so me saying sometimes it sounds babyish might not make sense, but I don't know if that's because the narrator or the 3rd person narration or whatever it is. Honestly, how do I get away with making vlogs or being on bookish TV shows when I don't know that? But facts, I don't. But that bothered me. I think the vignette style in this was both a good thing because it gave it a real propulsion, but also sometimes to the detriment because I didn't feel fully invested. And as the book went on, as I should have got more invested, there was a death that I wasn't invested in at all because I don't feel like I'd been developed enough. But then I just felt like that about the whole book. So I think it's an interesting book. I'd quite like to read the memoir version of it, I think, from America with the photos. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it's got photos and stuff in it apparently, to get like more of a... I just felt this needed a tiny bit more emotive, or I needed some sort of more of an emotional hook in it, which I didn't quite get for various different reasons. I was gonna do like a recap, but I might save that and possibly to when I'm editing it, because now it's definitely not going to be going up until after the Women's Prize, because my brain is like, not the Women's Prize final, sorry, I should say the shortlist. So maybe I'll have a catch up then, because I do want to give all of the books that I've read like a 1-line summation like I did at the start, but also this video could be several hours long by the amount of content that I've got, so we'll see. But yeah, glad I read it. I would like to read more from Charcoal Press, and and I'd like to read some of the books that Jennifer Croft has translated. I think that would be quite interesting to do soon. So yeah, there we go, my thoughts on that. And I have to say, none of the books have been bad. They're just, I've liked some more than others, and that's just the way it is with books, isn't it? So yeah, and Mum and I did choose our individual shortlists, which were both quite shocked how close they came to the shortlist, especially when we decided to combine our two shortlists and then barter and create a savage shortlist. That video is on her channel, which I will try and remember to link down below so you can go and see it if you haven't. But yeah, I'll be back possibly when I'm editing this to have a catch up with you all then. Yeah, I'll speak to you all in a bit. Well, it'll be mere seconds for all of you, possibly days for me. Hi everyone, it's Editing Simon. As promised, I am back to have a chat with you about all of the books that I ended up reading that I hadn't given a one sentence summation of. Also, because I know people asked, sadly my uncle passed away last week. Well, the week before last now. So yeah, but it's something that I don't want to talk about on here, and you know, it's not for me to talk about. So yeah, but as I mentioned it, there we go. Right, so I think I gave these one sentence summations pretty much well. I think I cheated a little bit. So did I do it for Wandering Souls? I'm not sure I did. If I did, I'm going to do it again. And I would say that this is a emotional yet journalistically factual account of a family escaping Vietnam, the Vietnamese War and heading to Thatcher's Britain. So that. Cursed Bread. I could sum this in one word, but I won't. No, I'm joking. Not for me. However, a interesting tale of a woman's obsession and trying to feel less of an outsider with gothic undertones. Then we have The Dog of the North, a bonkers book which pushes funny and the amount of gags it needs to have in it, sometimes to the detriment of a really interesting story and a bunch of characters. Children of Paradise, a dark, gothic, I want to say dripping in gothic actually, a dark, dripping in gothic novel about a group of outsiders working in a cinema and what goes on with them. It gets darker and darker as you read on. Homesick by Jennifer Croft, the tale of two sisters and the difficulties they go through, told through vignettes that are powerful but sometimes a little bemusing. I got better at this. I feel like maybe I have. And then I'm not going to do it for these two. The reason for that is, as I mentioned when I popped up earlier, I am going to be compiling all the footage that I've made of me reading the shortlisted books for the Women's Prize, with the exception of two that I'm going to reread, which are Pod and The Marriage Portrait, and combine that for a video that will go live before the winner is announced. So there we go. I will leave you on that teaser. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been blinking long. I think it might be the longest video that I've ever done on this channel. So yeah, I hope you had some popcorn at the ready. And on that note, in the comments below, I would love you to leave me an emoji of some popcorn or a camera, or like a filming camera or something along those lines. That would be fab. And I'd love to hear your one-word summations of some of the books and what your favourites on the long list were. Be it whether they have ended up on the shortlist or not. I would love to hear your thoughts. So yeah, and also I'd really like to know, would you like me to do a video where I go through the books that didn't get to the shortlist and talk about them in more detail? Because I've read some of them like last year, some of them this year, some of them very recently in this vlog, even though I filmed most of this like a week or two ago. But yeah, I'd love to know all of those things, and I will see you in another video in the not too distant future, hopefully. I'm not going to promise when, because things were a little bit bonkers, because at the moment, if you missed my book haul, you might have missed the news, I am gearing up to film a new show for Sky Arts from Hay Festival this year, and I've got some amazing guests who have amazing backlists that I've got to get to, so that is going to be going on. I'm going to try and film as I go, and I'd quite like to film a behind the scenes of how you make a TV show. So if you've any ideas of what you'd like to see in that vlog, let me know that down below. But also that makes the emojis that you leave down below even more apt. So a TV, popcorn, a camera of some sort or anything like that down below, and any other thoughts on the long list or anything you want to have a chat about the shortlist, and I will see you all very, very soon. Thanks as always for spending time with me. It's been lovely chatting to you. And if you want to subscribe, if you want to like, if you want to head to my Instagram, my Patreon, my Twitter, or anything else, that's all linked down below, along with some of the channels that I featured in the video that I love, that I'd love you to go and see. I will speak to you all later. I promise I'm going now. Bye.